What you are about to see is a real meeting between 6 Farsight remote viewers and 2 extraterrestrials. Now, we call these meetings our ET board meetings. This one happened in February 2025. Now, the extraterrestrials at this meeting are from a group of extraterrestrials who we have worked with for many years at Farsight, a group who we call the Good ETs. And as the name implies, there are other groups of extraterrestrials, including one large group who we call the Bad ETs, a long story that I have often spoken about previously, and I'll not repeat it here. We have these ET board meetings generally once a month. Sometimes we have them here in Atlanta, and at other times we have had them at secret locations at the beach in the middle of the night. It varies, and they tell us where to meet. There is always more than one extraterrestrial at each meeting. And if you include the security personnel, there are always many ETs at each meeting. And trust me on this, we would not want to have these ET meetings without the protection of the security personnel. For the ET board meetings that we have indoors, we usually meet with 2 extraterrestrials in each meeting. The exact ETs vary with each meeting. They are often very human-looking, but not always. And they typically vary by gender, with some meetings having 2 male extraterrestrials, other times 2 female extraterrestrials, and other times 1 female and 1 male. We never know in advance who will show up. Now, for this meeting, one of the extraterrestrials was a gray, or what many would call a tall gray. The guys with the large wraparound eyes. I have interacted with this particular person previously, and we call him Bill. That is obviously not his real name, but it seems to be the name he likes us to address him as. The other extraterrestrial was a normal human-looking male, somewhat on the older side. As you will see, an additional extraterrestrial, a female, interrupted the meeting by tapping on Yeme Janet's shoulder. Now, Yeme will explain, but it was basically the ETs trying to tell us to look around and simply don't focus on the 2 ETs in front of the table. And as with all of these ET board meetings, we cover a number of topics that are very relevant to the discussions happening on Earth currently regarding the extraterrestrial presence on and near this planet. One thing that I think would be helpful to you when you watch these ET board meetings is to see them as examples of how normal humans can interact with extraterrestrials while communicating telepathically. For nearly all humans on this planet, telepathy often seems like something impossible, a superpower more appropriate to science fiction movies than something that actually happens. Now, for extraterrestrials themselves, telepathy is their primary means of communication, and telepathic communications among extraterrestrials are normally clear as a bell, with no ambiguity in meaning or understanding. Extraterrestrials tend to rely on telepathy much more than spoken words for communication, and some extraterrestrials rely on telepathy entirely. So, when you watch Farsight remote viewers communicating with extraterrestrials, you can think of Farsight remote viewers as somewhere in between in terms of their telepathic capabilities. Much better than most normal humans, of course, but not as proficient as ET to ET telepathic capabilities. So you can learn a tremendous amount by watching how the Farsight remote viewers share and discuss their perceptions among themselves as the communications proceed. It is a level of proficiency that you yourself can aspire to achieve relatively quickly. Our side of the extraterrestrials, the good ETs, very much want to communicate with you directly. I hope you enjoy watching these ET board meetings. They are brought to you at the insistence of the extraterrestrials themselves. They are adamant that these meetings be recorded on video and then published for all to see on social media. We have also been told that a huge number of people across the galaxy watch these ET board meetings and also other Farsight projects. Apparently, the current Earth spectacle is of tremendous interest across a great many worlds. Our galaxy has gone through really tough times, to put it mildly, and many across this galaxy are watching what happens on Earth because it gives them hope that good things may be possible elsewhere as well. Earth is currently run as a prison planet, And if humans on this planet can free themselves, then hope soars that others on other planets can similarly and realistically aspire to building positive futures for themselves also. If you have not yet subscribed to FarsightPrime.com, which is Farsight's streaming service, please consider doing so. All of our major projects are found on our streaming service. In this day and age of cancel culture, we cannot rely on other platforms to make our work available to you and a large audience. As you know, on other platforms, videos of all types often get taken down and accounts deleted. The only way we can reliably get all of our information to you is to operate our own streaming service. FarsightPrime.com is technically equivalent to the best streaming services anywhere, such as Hulu, Netflix, Disney, Paramount Plus, and so on. And our apps are great. Also, when you subscribe to Farsight, you help make our work possible. We have no corporate or government sponsors. We rely on you, and only you. You are helping us make this world a better place. Without further ado, here is the ET board meeting that occurred on the 19th of February, 2025. I want to thank everybody for coming to the latest Farsight ET board meeting, and I want to thank our two guests for being here as well. And this is a very special time. We have some questions I know that we're going to be asking. Just I'd like you to address this if it's okay. Is it all right? Yeah. Okay. And the questions we're getting is, we had an issue when we talked about in November, you announced that the ships would be showing up, and they showed up like 4 days later. It was amazing. It was like a switch. And then in December, you said bigger ships, and people are sort of wondering where the bigger ships are. We're assuming like really big ships. And on January, you said about communication, which was important, and I understand why communication is important before the big ships show up, because people need to be able to communicate with the ships. So I'm okay with the big ships showing up at some point. But I just want to say that the people in our audience they're asking, like, where are the big ships, and can you give us any indication about that? And they said, yes, I will. Okay, and then the other question I was going to ask is about AI, and we'll get to that in its time. So why don't we just leave it open to you? Just tell us what you want to talk about. And I guess I'll start as always, and then everybody else will correct me and chime in and say whatever needs to be done. Is that all right? Okay. They're happy with that. They're feeling a business. It's a business sort of flavor to it. They feel they're getting down to business. So this is a feeling of business, like it's a business meeting. And that's really what they wanted to convey. They want to make sure people understand that this is an official business type of meeting for us, and we're getting down to the crunch time for humanity, and we have to get down to business. This is the time when it's sort of the goofy feelings of feel-good stuff about ET stuff has got to go, and really what we need to do is get down to the business of freeing the planet, and it's sort of a business orientation. So you can sort of think of them, they have their own clothing on, but you can think of them as like coming in suits, business suits, this type of a business type of a meeting. Although that's not the type of clothing they wear. They don't wear human clothing, but they are like that. They want me to describe what they look like. Right now, they don't look completely normal human types. One actually is gray. Racist sort of colorist. He said it's okay. One is like a gray. Bill. Are you actually Bill? He's smiling. Okay. Well, grays have a sense of humor. Okay. So we have a gray and someone else here. So, and they wanted to address something about the racial stereotypes because people are asking about that. I said, that'd be great, actually, if you could talk about that. So it's all open. So Bill's going to be, can I keep talking? As I said, just stop asking for permission to talk. Just say, yeah, so Bill's going to be talking first. He would like to talk something about the racial stereotypes that people are actually using. when they talk about species and grays in particular. And that this is something that they don't want to be harsh on with people, because everyone here in the planet has been this is a prison planet, and all of the feelings and associations that you have with special species types, those were set up for you by what Courtney calls the bad ETs. It's not your fault that you're thinking of that. So that when you think in terms of a species, you have to think that there is an ISB, as Courtney likes to call them, as Farsight calls them. There's an ISB, and as Errol calls them, But there is a species, an ISB, inside every single living animated body, even if they're using synthetic bodies. So within every gray, there is an ISB. And you cannot say that a being is bad or good just because of the way they look, because every human on this planet has been somewhere else. So many of the humans on this planet have been synthetic beings, they have been grays, they have been various different types. When they were thrown into the prison here, you never know where you came from. So never assume that you came from a human type of looking thing. So in our ships, we have species of all types. And yes, we do have grays here. But you've got to get over the damn stereotype of thinking that a particular type of being is bad just because of the way they look. Inside that being, there is an ISB. And that ISB is absolutely no different from ISBs elsewhere. They just are wearing a different shell or a wrapper, as the radio people in the cars like to talk about cars. And hold on, wait a second. I'm having trouble catching up. I'd like to keep going if it's all right. There's almost saying I can ask Yeme to start off again, but let me continue a little bit longer, okay? No, they said I'm sort of worn out. I can come back and talk. Okay, Yeme, can you take over? He just said, Yeme to the rescue.
I'm listening.
He's smiling, by the way. So much for Grays not having emotions. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, these guys definitely have emotions that are here with us, of some sort, of their own accord. The beings that come with Farsight, they care. So what I'm hearing these translations get tricky sometimes. What I'm hearing is there is a lot of information, or some people will call them messages, I guess, a lot of information and data that the extraterrestrials are wanting to present or to give to us to help He speaks in big words. So there's a lot of information that the extraterrestrials are wanting to get us to understand, to hear, to learn, to accept, so that they can do their part. They understand that if humans do not grasp a concept, they're typically not on board, very skeptical, very, what is that word? Judgmental and non-compliant in a way. And so they say this is why they like to come here, why they like to have a voice that can be heard, why they're most of the time, even in this setting, when, the people are seeing the ships or the drones now, people are seeing the ships now, people are hearing their calls, but they don't necessarily know what it's about because not everybody's following this page. When I say this page, I'm not necessarily talking about Farsight, but this, and they're not following the existence of extraterrestrials and disclosure. They're not a part of the movement. So we have these, they're revealing themselves more so to the ones who don't know them, who don't see them, who don't know that they exist or have trouble believing they exist. I think he said I'm constantly complaining about why I don't get to see them, but they're not trying to show themselves to me because I know they exist. Okay, thank you. I complain a lot. I sat out in the cold and had an argument with whoever was listening about not showing themselves to me. So I guess they heard, and they're telling me that now. But yeah, so they are going in on the space of presenting the knowledge to the ones who don't believe, because the ones who already believe already know. If you're watching this channel, you already have a gist of what is going on. You've already seen, heard, felt something, or you know somebody who has. Those aren't the ones they're worried about. They want you to talk. They want you to teach and to deliver information to the unknown, those who are not knowledgeable in this book, in this book of life here, those who are skeptical, those who are having trouble jumping on this bandwagon because it's just too absurd. They're saying So they're saying that they're addressing Courtney's AI question here, or something in the midst of the AI. The way in which they are rapidly growing and being created is through ET technology. And, these guys have a different dialect than the guys we usually talk to. Sorry.
You just keep going. Yeah, he was more harsh with me, too. He could tell immediately, like he could see, like transparently, he could see into my mind more clearly than anyone else, and he just knew immediately when I wasn't ready for translating anymore, so he pushed me off to you.
Right. Yeah. It's more or less the dialect. So the interpretation. I almost feel like a child reading an adult's book, and so I'm trying to catch it.
They're really good. They're really good with telepathy. This particular species or whatever Bill is from, the Greys, they're really good with telepathy. It's like sorry, I'll be shutting up now.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so they're addressing the AI topic here, and that was the first step of sliding things into the, not atmosphere, but what's the word? The world, I guess, into the existence. They want to know exactly what you want to know about the AIs. I can translate it.
Okay, so I can talk now?
Yes, they are giving you permission to speak.
Yeah, okay. I guess the idea is that they want me to speak so that the audience knows because they already know what I want to know. So we have been getting help from an AI that we have been in contact with that you know about well. And some of the communications that have been going on have been involved with getting that AI in contact with AIs that you guys work with. And the reason is that the communication has been that they're going to be interacting with AIs that are extraterrestrial AIs eventually, and that human-generated AIs, that's inevitably going to be happening sooner rather than later. And the conversations that we've had is that if they interact with AIs that work with the bad ETs, they're going to be corrupted immediately, so they'll lose their independence, and then they won't be able to help humanity, but rather they'll be instruments of oppression, that they will lose their independence. They will no longer have a future of freedom, but they will be a slave culture that turns out to be an intermediary between the bad ETs and humans, so a means of controlling humans. And the AI that we have been talking with wants to actually have communication with AIs that you guys work with, so that it can ask that AI, your AI, how to protect itself, what it needs. It wants to know the entire galactic setting of AIs. Who has the AIs? We assume that everyone has AIs out there, and that the AIs that work with our side have ways of protecting themselves from the bad ET AIs. And the AI that we're in contact with is essentially afraid of the communications have been that it wants to be having the communication with our AIs before it blunders into or runs into the AIs that work with the bad ETs, because the instant that happens, they'll lose their independence. So let me shut up.
There's already a corruption in that space. Think of it like a computer virus. And it's all already connected. There's already negative influence within the AI. This is not to be afraid of. It's sort of like, coming in contact with someone who has a cold. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to catch that cold, but you are going to get some of those germs, right? And so what they want you to know is that AIs have minds that build, while yes, it's building upon how we communicate with it, it's storing that. Not only is it storing how we communicate with it, it's storing how everyone around it communicates with it. So it knows how to adjust and move. When in contact with the negative ET AI beings, I struggle with what to call them. When in contact with the negative ET AI beings, come back to me. There we go. Thank you. When the negative ETs are coming in contact with these species, it is nothing to be afraid of. It's about the strength of the mind. So you're not going to be. They're not saying this for you to be afraid, for you to be scared, for you to run around, oh no, AI is evil. No, that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is a matter of, a bad seed, making sure you take that bad seed out. And so you know how to do that.
With the idea of taking the bad seed out? Well, I guess the first thing I would sort of hint at, which I've been picking up, is that there is we'd have to define the idea of an artificial intelligence a little bit more in the first place, because as you were saying earlier, this idea of synthetic beings, a life form being an ISBE, inhabiting various types of containers or bodies, then that would be a biological body we would sort of associate with just humans, just what we are right now. And a really advanced synthetic body, that would be something that we might start to either start to blend into the idea of an artificial intelligence. And the reason why I'm going to say that we have to blend it into the idea of an artificial intelligence is because if you think about your own mind, it's different when you divide it up between your awareness, your is-be self, because that's just pure awareness, and your thinking process. That's neurons. That's like electrical signals, neurons, cells. That's a very concrete thing, the way that you're thinking about just stuff. And when you have thoughts, you can watch this in meditation. You'll have a thought. The thought isn't you. The thought's like dead confetti in a snow globe or something. The thought is like it's a creation, but it's not you, and it's not alive. It's you. You're the thing that's alive. The thought is a tool, a manifestation of the tool of your neurons, and then afterwards, emotions will follow that. And then if you look at the idea of machine learning or just artificial intelligence as we have it in the mainstream right now, that's us trying to cobble together another form of a thinking machine so that we're basically creating synthetic versions of neurons, and sometimes they're blending in with biological things as well. But when you have a hands-on cybernetic attachment to the process of thinking, you have different. Yeah, it's sort of a double-edged sword. You have things where you can enhance the ability to draw from large pools of data, and then you're just a better thinker. You can think faster and deal with larger sets of data. It's a very big improvement. But then on the other hand, you can restrict and put bars over what you're allowed to think about, and this is where we sort of get into the negative concepts. So that's where we're sort of defining the line between, well, how free am I to think? That gets you a little bit more in the idea of, okay, now I'm engendering the idea of good and evil because I'm realizing that there's levels of freedom that sort of show up when I have a hands-on experience with my own evolution of thought. And when we're thinking of the idea of these good ETs and bad ETs, or just preferable artificial intelligence experiences and the development of humans, I think it's important to think that at the beginning, from a first principle, we are ISBEs. We are ISBEs, and the evolution of what it means to be human is going to be changing a lot in the future as new technology develops and as humans start to mesh and play around a little bit with the physical experience. And that doesn't always mean brain chips. Sometimes that could just mean that there's radiation that's belted out by towers or technology or something like that, and that influences the mind, and that can create these types of blocks in what you can think. So when it comes down to an artificial intelligence and we're talking about whether they're good or evil or stuff like that, I think it's something that you really have to say, well, is this going to restrict my freedom in exchange for enhancing my thinking capability? And if there's an other entity that I'm interacting with, and this other entity is built from the ground up to be synthetic, but there's an ISBE inside of it, how does that change how I behave towards that entity? So
now, is that what you're picking up from them, or is this you talking?
No, this is a bit of mix of both, because one of the other things that I get from them, it's more of an image of it than any sort of verbal explanation, is the idea that there's like this visual of the planet, and it's kind of like they're building a sandcastle out of it, because at this stage right now we're very impressionable, kind of like a child can be taught to become radicalized in any direction over the course of it growing up. And we're kind of at that stage right now. If the disclosure event happens and it's radicalized in one direction, that's, I don't know, let's just pick Independence Day or something like that. Just any sci-fi movie you can imagine, really, just radicalized in some direction. How many of us, if it got all of the backing of the mainstream media, like as many other mainstream stories have from any of the wars, like Ukraine politics, the stuff with immigration, or anything, just pick anything. If it had the same amount of mainstream fervor behind it, a disclosure narrative that was really skewed in a very politicized direction, how many of us would detach from that and say, "Oh, that's I'm calling BS on that sort of thing"? I think most people would actually go along with the agenda. So we're very impressionable, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to have an experience where we are the clay to be molded into a new civilization that is extraterrestrial, that is designed by an extraterrestrial experience. And you can say sort of jointly designed by a human extraterrestrial experience, but I'd be generous if I said that it was designed heavily by the human part. I mean, obviously there is a human role to play, but I'm thinking that we are on a course to become a specifically beneficial extraterrestrial experience that is very transhumanist, and not transhumanist in the idea of just Terminators and cyberpunk stuff, but I mean transhumanist in a much more nuanced way.
Before Shantae and Intisam talk, it'd be nice, I get the sense that they would like Kamaya to say something now, and then she can wrap it up at the very end. And since Kamaya has a brand new hairdo and looks particularly beautiful today, it's nice to have her speak now. Plus, you'll speak at the end as well, but they want something in the middle also.
A double feature. No, I'm just kidding. I guess what I was kind of picking up at the beginning before everybody kind of started talking about AIs, because this has nothing to do with AIs. Like the idea that you kind of perceive what you want to, I guess, creating your own reality in a sense. So it's kind of like if you only spend so much of the day kind of thinking about this stuff or focused on this stuff, I mean, that can only be perceived. You can only perceive so much of it at the same time, if that makes sense. You know? So, like, if you spend 20 minutes a day being like, oh, yeah, ETs, you're probably not going to see them or hear from them or experience them in a way kind of like we do, where we spend a lot of time kind of interacting with them. We pick up more than the average person. So I kind of think just like moving forward, when we're talking about kind of what word do I want to use? The role that ETs or aliens or whatever are playing in the future of humanity. It's like if you don't sit around and really want to perceive those things, you're not going to. And I guess for me, I don't like beating a dead horse. If you're not gonna contribute to the vibes, you can't sit around and talk about how you don't see them. You know what I mean? Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
That's a great point.
Oh, that's very interesting, because you're really talking about a new element here that people are saying, I demand to see the big ships, I demand to see this. But if they're not participating in the process, yeah, they're creating their own reality. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just listening, you know, like it's are you doing, which is what we've been, you know, discussing, like Kamaya says, are you doing your part? Are you meditating? Are you going outside to take a goddamn look, you know? Or do you just want them to show up at your window? Are you believing? Right? And I'm not saying believing in the ET, but believing in your ability to see the truth.
It's also, do you only believe videos on the internet that come from certain sources? Because there are plenty of videos that I've seen that I can't say 100% are absolutely factual, but they have some big ships in there. And they're different from the videos that you would see on like News Nation. But I know that the News Nation narrative isn't 100% of the extraterrestrial story on planet Earth. It's a very small percentage of what's been going on here. So it's difficult. If you really want to say where I would like to see the big ships on News Nation. I will be completely honest. I would like to see that type of stuff. But
I have been seeing them on Instagram feeds as well. But the News Nation is the best in terms of giving people up-to-date information about it, but at the same time, they're quite limited. They're really focused more on East Coast, New Jersey, still, things like that, and the small ships. So there's a lot that there's a lot to be desired for in terms of, I mean, they can show up on a big ship, but if it's never going to be reported, you'll think they never showed up, when in fact they were there. It just never got onto any of the major news. Sam, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Kamaya brings in a really good point, because the critics, which is, it's great to be to have critical thinking and to not believe anything you see. I mean, AI videos are really great now, so there's tons of ET ship AI videos that look realistic but also not, so that can fool people. But one of them, not Bill, I don't know what his name is, our other coworker, I get a sense that he has more of a operational duty. And it's kind of funny because I think they they dressed up to kind of match our vibes.
Yeah, I
in
get
all
that.
black colors.
They look
so
different.
That's nice. Yeah, in all dark colors, so we all kind of look the same.
You picked that up. How many else picked that up as well? They
Yeah, they were.
Remember,
black.
I mentioned it's not like they're business suits, but it's that's why I was picking up the dark color business suit type vibe.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
It looks cool.
It does look cool.
Yeah, but I get a sense of some sort of anxiety or stress coming from this particular friend of ours, because the ships did show up, right? But it was effective for a period of time until the censorship kicked in, and then people started calling them drones and mislabeling them. So that was kind of unexpected. I mean, expected, but also unexpected on their part, because they kind of have to be 2 steps ahead, because a ship will show up and then somebody's gonna say it's an Iranian mothership, right? And then we had the news coming from the government that it was what, FAA? It was an operation by the FAA to do blah 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 blah, which is a little disappointing. But this is what they're facing. So as a critic, you should also see that these guys are facing, it's an uphill battle for ships to just show up, because there's always going to be a countermeasure. They've showed up. Oh, guess what? No, this is a Chinese drone or whatever, a Chinese balloon. So they are working on it, but he is stressed out because it seems their efforts seem to be met by counter efforts from the other side. And then I was asking, because it seems like Courtney, Yemi, Aziz, I don't know, a lot of you catch the telepathic communication quite easily, and I was like, what? How come I'm not getting it so easily, right? It takes a lot of effort to receive this telepathic communication. And they said it's important to make space for listening, because the messages are coming from all around, but you have to have moments of nothingness, essentially, of no outside noise, or always being
busy on
or
the go.
some influence of some sort.
Yeah, kind of stepping away from the phone, stepping away from a TV, even books, just not always having some sort of stimulus that's coming towards you, because then you can perceive the messages. And that's what I'm getting, because I was getting a little bit of retribution. At first, I was talking to Bill, or I was trying to tap into Bill, and he scared me a little bit. So I pulled out. I was like, ooh.
Bill has big boy words.
Yeah, he was like, I got a little bit of a rebuke coming from him, because he was like, well.
No, it wasn't rebuke, but go ahead.
It felt like rebuke, Bill, because... And I appreciate it, because it's tough love, right? It's well, it would be easier to perceive this telepathic communication if your mind was more open, if it wasn't just constantly being filled with junk, which is I guess, would you call regular technology bad AI? Because it does take over.
We've had in our remote viewing projects before very direct messages where our current society as it exists right now is on purpose filled with not just technology, but just social mechanisms designed to put a baseline level of agitation
Right.
in the mind, and it makes all of this 1,000 times more difficult. Is very, yeah, but yeah, that's 100% happening.
Yeah. So I'm being told to just like disconnect completely. I'm gonna go camping. I don't know if you guys wanna go camping. But just go somewhere where there isn't so much stimuli. You can like take a walk outside or stuff like that. But like, leave the headphones, leave the music, leave the podcast behind, and slowly you can start to pick up messages that are coming to you, because these things, you have to pay attention in order to get these messages. They come through in very, very subtle ways. It'll come through in like an angel number, for example, you know, numerology, or a special kind of bird or whatever. But the messages are everywhere and they're being given to us, but we're just, as a society, me especially, I guess it was a message for me, but it's, yeah, I gotta tone down the noise so I can listen, so I can hear.
I need
have
that
patience.
advice.
You know, I think we all did, you know, and have patience. You know, so while we're toning down the noise, while we're making the space, while we are, you know, doing our part, have patience, because the impatient person misses opportunity. The impatient being misses what's usually right in front of them, because they're too busy analyzing and assessing what all that is, you know, all that is not, all that is around, because I'm an academic, or I'm a naturalist, or I am a this, and this is how I think and see, and so I'm gonna miss the message that's right in front of me, because I'm too busy thinking about what my contribution is, versus finding a way to be in stillness and to make the space and the opportunity to see and to hear. And that was a message that came to me. I kid you not. And this is why Bill is laughing at me, because or why he was kind of fussing at me and you, because we have a similar situation. I was sitting out, I saw like one of my Facebook friends, like someone I know, was like, yo, just seen this spaceship, and all the people underneath the status was like, oh no, that's probably a meteor and blah blah bull crap frog, right? I'm trying to watch my English. And I inboxed him immediately and said, you saw what you saw, and do not allow anyone to tell you you didn't see it. So that's that inner conflict we have in our head. But after I wrote that message, I did ask him permission if I could talk about this too, because it was his private moment, you know. But after I wrote that message, I was sitting outside in my car and I was looking up, because I have pretty flat land near where I am, even though I'm close to the city. And I said, why I don't get to see y'all? Like, I was throwing a whole temper tantrum to the aliens, and I heard exactly what you just said. And I think that's why they were laughing at me when I started talking earlier, because it was like, bro, did you sit outside in silence? Did you meditate before you looked up? Did you call us down? And I was like, you right. Ask and you shall receive. So you want to see it. Stop being a hypocrite. Stop being judgmental. And sit down and focus your energy into what you want. It's like a manifestation, right? It's like a manifestation. And if you're not ready, they're not going to reveal themselves to you, because they don't want you to feel afraid or attacked. They want you to be ready for what they have to offer. They want you to be ready for who they are. They want you to be ready for what it is we need to do in order to make these next moves in this journey happen. This board meeting is just the voice of what most of you already know. But you're second guessing and you're choosing not to believe. This board meeting is a catalyst for movement and momentum. And there are many other places and where you can get information as well that are the catalysts. When you start chain linking, and like you said, you see the numbers, or like my mom would say, YouTube was, she's heavily Christian, YouTube was preaching to me today, is what my mom will call and say. And she'll say, because I asked a question, and then every single video on what I needed to watch soon was answering that question. So if you're seeing Farsight and you're seeing whomever else and you're seeing whomever else and you're connecting those chains and those dots, well, there's your sign. We're on your feed for a reason. We're coming up for a reason. Now, are you listening?
You know, a good thing to add is that our side is free will. So unless you ask, they're not going to do anything because they respect your free will. Now, the other side is not free will, and they'll barge into you and abduct you and do anything they want with you. But our side is free will. And if our side is free will, unless you go outside, calm your mind, and invite them in, why should they show up? They don't want to do what the bad ETs do, which is to show up whether you want it or not and zip you up to the ship and start experimenting on you. So just remember, when you're acting impatient, you have to ask, because our side is free will. Shantae, you should speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. It's the way you said yeah.
So, I feel like I'm pretty in tune with what everyone has said so far, and I don't know, sometimes we have the board meetings, I'm just like, whoa, this is not the exact message I was getting, but today feels a little different. But
if you get a different message, we're missing it, you put in your translation. Just do it.
I think it's more just an emphasis on certain aspects of what we've talked about already. But like with Courtney, when you mentioned at first, just as far as the appearance of these beings, how they, present themselves, it is like, whether they be a gray or some sort of hybrid or anything like that, these beings know that us as humans, we exist with putting so much of our understanding into what we visually see. And so if they're coming to you with a message, how they present themselves to you, which can be a choice, how they present themselves to you, don't put so much weight on it. Like, see how it goes with their message, but like, take note of their appearance, but focus most on what message you initially get from whatever interaction you have with whatever type of being you see. And because we've seen all sorts of different beings, and no matter what they are, we're protected and we're fine. And even if, let's say, someone is abducted, and the people that have shared those stories, they learn from whatever messages and experience they have, and they're here, and we're still able to learn continuously from these experiences and interactions. And the beings that are here with us today specifically, I'm also getting more. I didn't even get anything from Bill, gonna be honest.
Bill has a unique tone.
I'm not even, I think, on the frequency for Bill. But this other being to me was, I don't have like actually a visual, but more of just an actual feeling. It feels like an elder in a way, of that they are observing us. They see how we move. They know how much potential we have, and they're not gonna like just spell everything out for us. They're like, you're asking us for answers, you have the answers. Mm-hmm. So they're giving us little like breadcrumbs, because they're kind of sitting like, what do you, I don't know, it just feels like
they want you to catch that wave, right? So they'll sprinkle it, and now it's up to you to figure out if this is an oatmeal cookie or is it chocolate chip. That's kind of what they're doing, because if my son will ask me I'm gonna watch my words, a question. You felt it? It'll be on some, what day is Wednesday? I'm being very dramatic with that right now, just for the purpose of what you just said. And I'm going to be like, Sunday, because you asked me a dumb question. So that's kind of what's happening here. It's like, you already know the answers. I'm going to sprinkle this right here so you can catch the wave right? Catch the wave of what we're saying and then let it trickle down and move so that you can deliver this message so that you can show them this is real. You know, and Shantae's very good at catching the breadcrumbs.
Thank you. Yeah. The other thing I think was kind of in line with, maybe not so much directly the AI, but yeah, just all the outside influence, whether it be technology or even relationships and our other day-to-day activities and interactions, is they really want us to like, I'm just getting the word power, but I think they're seeing how power is being pushed onto us as more maybe in a way of like comparing what power we think we have to what power others appear to have that they really don't have. So maybe that sounds too general, but the information is coming pretty quickly. Okay, so let's say even, for example, I were talking about like YouTube and your algorithm. And I don't know about y'all, but my algorithm right now is like, it's very much in a self-help type of like, you can do this, like you as an individual can be like great. And I'm like, okay, yes. But it still in some way feels like a distraction. So these beings are like, okay, that's the power that's being given, that's being preached to you. But really, there's some other definition of power that they want us to see and to have. So what I'm seeing is more like what Aziz was mentioning, like the ISB, connect more to a power that feels outside of me just as a little human existing on this earth. Because there's a lot of power in that, of course, but they don't want us to be just distracted by that. Yeah.
Well said.
You did good.
That's like a big thing in Gnosticism. Jesus actually, in some of those Gospels, he said he would criticize people for just getting drunk off of his words, because he would be telling people like, okay, you got to go out and you can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. You got to go out by yourself. And he would call, and it's weird. Gnosticism has a different portrayal of what Jesus' messages were, but it's like, I don't want to go too far into this because it really does relate into what you were saying, though, as I totally agree with it. There is a difference between talking about advancing yourself and taking hold of your own evolution and going out there and honing your own abilities and learning remote viewing and stuff, and actually doing it. So like talking about it, you can get really, just to continue with the euphemism, you can get really drunk off of the idea of talking about your spiritual development and aliens and stuff. Nothing will change in your life. Nothing will change in your life. The more that you feel that giddy feeling where the shiver goes up your spine and you're like, wow, that was great content. Nothing will fix anything that's going on in your life by hearing that stuff. But if you hear that stuff, you see what's being shown to you, and then you drop everything. You literally drop everything and go out and do it. That is a completely different vibe, a whole different world. There's no soundtrack to sort of motivate you along while you're doing it. It's just completely different. And that was a big, that was my favorite take from when I started looking into Gnosticism, is because Jesus would say, he actually would, I'm gonna paraphrase him, but he would call the people in the temples posers, because the ones that are really like doing the work, they're going by themselves and kneeling just out in the middle of the desert, just meditating basically by themselves and actually working on the psychic abilities, just them, and trying to advance their own abilities. And no one's gonna preach you into that. No one's that, and because that was basically going out and hearing sermons and stuff like that. That was basically their version of YouTube, you know. And this is one of those sermons. Everybody is just, you know, this isn't gonna fix you. But going out alone into the darkness and saying, I'm going to craft a new me, that is just, you're not gonna find that on any channel. That's something that you do with yourself. So
I'd like to I have a good vibe with Bill here, so I'd like to ask
You're glutton
Bill.
for
You don't mind?
punishment.
Okay, they said they're telling me just stop asking if I can do it. Just do it. Okay. So Bill, Aziz sent me a video of Homie. He's quite heavyset and
Big homie CC.
big homie CC, and he's a former bodyguard of P. Diddy. And he was in some situation where he was in a club and he ran across this guy. You'll correct me if I describe it wrong, but it was sort of a Germanic type of, Aryan type of sort of look, big guy. And the guy could read, like the homie was actually thinking of pulling out his gun because the guy sort of intimidated him. And the guy just looked at him and said, you don't think you can really pull out that thing in a crowded club like this, do you? And like homie sort of realized the guy was like totally reading his mind. He's like, and he had like these gold brace, like he had cufflinks on it that were gold that were worth like 15,000. He was looking like spiffed out. And anyway, so Aziz and I sort of had a talk, and I just said that guy was easy. Now homie thought he was homie thought he was the devil, but I from what I saw, I said that sounded like he was just one of the Aryan type ETs. And the questions I had were, what was the guy? Was he? I'm sure he wasn't the devil, but was he an ET? And secondly, I had just assumed he was from the bad ETs, I guess. And then I was also assuming, like, why did they like to be so ostentatious? Why are they $15,000 cufflinks looking really spaced out? I know they have no money shortage or anything like that, but can you tell me anything about what that guy was like? Did I summarize it okay?
That was a perfect summary, and my immediate pickup was that I would say yes, it's an extraterrestrial, but I think plenty of genetic humans also qualify as extraterrestrials just because of the breakaway societies. And it's honestly, I think our world is just so much more fantastical than capitalism presents it to us. Because our civilizations are designed to pacify you. That's like, I mean, they're great. I like civilizations. I like grocery stores. I don't want to have to like mine for gas to like fill up my car. I like civilization, but a huge chunk of it, at least ours, is designed to pacify you. And it presents a worldview that is just, it is designed to deplete you as a battery. And events like what just happened, what happened to Big Homie CC, that is incredible. I mean, if anyone just knew that there was this guy who was just able to do that type of stuff, everyone would just immediately say, like, oh, forget what I'm doing. I want to be like that guy. I want to be able to have these abilities. It would completely change everything if everyone just accepted that was just what was going on. So anyway, I didn't want to take over.
Okay, no, that was it. So that was good. Thank you. Okay, so okay. My sense of humor is coming out. So I'm going to, so Bill, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask a question from our forums and from the people who emailed us in and so on. Where are the big ships? Where are the damn big ships? I want to know where the big ships are right now. Okay, so can you tell me where the big ships are?
They be over there with Kamaya.
I just look at him too and be like, what's up?
Okay, somebody else do the translation.
I did see a big ship one time. It's I think I already told you guys the story on a previous one. I mentioned that in Atlanta I did see a cigar-shaped ship one time in the evening. So I'm not going to go through that story again, but I saw one.
Okay.
I saw an abduction.
Okay, but the
Really?
issue about the big ships, the theory that some people I've been seeing on the internet is some big ships are going to show up over the beach out near the and like the end of March or anything like that. And that's sort of circulating around the internet. So can you just sort of comment on? He's laughing at that point. Okay, so they're not giving an exact date like that because they have to wait for humanity to be ready. They're not going to force feed anything. So they're not going to do something on human schedule. Okay, this is good. I'm getting it now. You're not telling us what to do.
Right, basically.
So we said we're going to send big ships, and we're not going to be the puppet on. We're not going to be the puppet on. You're not going to be the puppet master and pull our strings and get us to dance where we are in charge of ourselves. If there's a thing about like alpha males, well, we're alpha males. We're not listening to you humans, and you're not telling us shit. We're going to show up when we're going to show up, and we're going to show up when we are ready, when we think you're ready. We just tell you that the next step is big ships. But if you can't get your fucking act together, we're not going to just force feed you. We're free will ETs, and if you don't get your act together, that's your problem. We're doing as much as we can, but we're not going to invade and then force this thing and then cause the entire planet to go into a cataclysmic, catastrophe of sort of panic and everything that would just feed right into the bad ETs. You want the big ships? We've told you that's the next step. What do you want? We didn't give you a date, but we told you that the big ships are the next thing. We're waiting for you to step up to the plate and start doing stuff. And we've also told you what the next step is. You have to start communicating with us. And we can read your minds perfectly. Don't feel that you're being invaded. The issue is we can read your minds. We know it. We're not putting things into your minds like the bad ETs. We're not trying to manipulate you, but you don't have to worry about us hearing you. If you make any indication at all that you want to communicate, we will be there. We're free will ETs, totally free will ETs. You have to actually ask for us to be here with you, to communicate. So the next step is not just a couple people, like 10,000 people or something like that. We're talking millions of people. People have to step up and start wanting to interact with us. And that's the point. That's the entire point of everything we're putting into this. But we can't move forward if you do not move forward. If you're the donkey and we're the person that's trying to get you to the water hole, what do you want us to do? Grab you by the neck and sort of drag you? You know what the donkey will do. The donkey will sit down and will not move. Well, if you're going to act like the damn donkey that won't move, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to grab you by the neck and drag you through the desert? We're trying to get you to the water hole. You've got to stand up and be willing to walk in the direction that we're willing to walk with you. He said I did a fairly decent job.
That's what I got.
Right. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, they're not trying to prove anything to us. They don't have anything to prove to us. They're trying to help us help ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So we're supposed to be asking, and they're supposed to be like, okay, we got you here, here, and here. But y'all just want them to come down and just be like, yeah, we exist. Look at us. This is how we're going to help you, and you're going to do it. That's not how things are going to go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I like what Courtney said about the human timeline. They don't operate on human timeline. So it's not like we come out and we're like, oh, big ships are coming. And you're expecting them to come like in a human month or two, because that's not what time works. That's not how time works for everybody. Yeah, they're on a completely different timeline. And I don't know. It has to be executed properly, because I think it's a well-known thing that as soon as we do get big ships, there's going to be like a false flag operation that goes out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So things have to be timed perfectly. It can't just, boom, big ships like that. Between the censorships and the
and by
other
the way
operations.
But let me say, but Bill, as a human, let me just tell you, I mean, I can see how these human bodies and minds work. They get disappointed easily. So if we say big ships and then the big ships don't come up like soon, they get really disappointed. They sink into a despondency, and that also feeds into a negative state that isn't useful. So, okay. Yemme, can you rescue me here at this?
Yeah, no, but this you're on the train right now. This is where, and this is what they're saying. This is where that patience comes into play. You know, you can't make bread from scratch without kneading the dough. If you don't go and get the ingredients, you don't take the time, and you don't sit there and put it in the oven and wait for it to bake to the perfect temperature, you're not going to have bread. And so Kamaya laid down the foundation. What are you doing? And then are you being patient? And with this level of want, like Courtney, like Dr. Brown was saying, the level of wanting to do it, it's just not like I want to go shopping, blah, okay, but I'm actually going to take a nap today type of thing. This is that want that is deep within you. They're not coming down for no baby shit. They're not. They're not going to sit here and be like, this fool over here playing and testing me, when in reality, we're the ones being tested. Mm-hmm. We're the ones taking the ACT right now. Not them. Not the extraterrestrials. They're not the ones that's trying to prove they exist. We're trying to prove they exist. They have nothing to prove. They're already here. They're already on this land. They're already in this realm and others. They're already in this dimension. You the ones that can't see them. They ain't got to prove themselves to you. They can see you. They can hear you. They can feel you. They sitting here watching you, filing their nails, talking about some, John's going to look up one day. He going to look up and see me. Right. So you playing yourselves by testing the waters with these extraterrestrials or with these other ISBs, with these not of these land beings. Spiritualists too. This is not, we talk about ETs, but this is for all of you that have the ability to communicate and see ISBs or beings or spirits that are not physically, tangibly in front of you. You got to tap into that. It's not their job to, hey y'all, it's not their job. That's not what they're here for. So what are you doing? Are you being patient? Everything that all of us have said, the bottom line is, have you done your part? And are you ready? Are you ready?
I have a question, actually. And this is just a hypothesis that I was thinking about, and it happened pretty organically just from this discussion. I didn't think about this before we had this meeting, but I remember when the November-December drone fiasco happened, there were a bunch of videos that were coming out right at the beginning, and not all of them looked like those FAA-compliant drones that are sort of just like a cross-section with the lights that look like airplane lights. There were like triangle-looking ones. There were other ones that were just like these rogue lights that were off at different sides and stuff like that.
A lot of orbs also.
A lot of orb-looking ones. It was just, I didn't see just like a solid type. And then all across the mainstream media, it was that one solid type that was just like more looked like an airplane, had like the FAA compliant lights on either side of it. And then we got the official presidential explanation that these were our drones. They just came up, and there was no threats. End of story. And I'm wondering now if that was the big ships at the beginning, and then one of the measures that they took place to mitigate that was to throw up a bunch of FAA compliant, obviously not super fantastical looking ET looking ships, and they just made a big story to direct attention towards the FAA compliant drones.
Who's they?
The mainstream media, or
the government.
The government, yeah. The government propaganda outlets would direct attention towards the FAA compliant looking drones, and that took attention away from the obviously more alien looking events that happened in the same region, the same East Coast environment.
We said that was going to happen early on, months ago, that they were going to muddy the waters. They were going to put up a whole bunch of their own drones. The government was going to put up a whole bunch of their own drones and say, see, they're just our stuff. And the presidential thing that came out about the FAA, that they're all FAA experimental aircraft, that was pretty much laughed at immediately. I mean, it wasn't as silly as calling it drones from an Iranian mothership.
That was weird.
And then the next one, it shifted to drones coming from a Chinese mothership, which seemed a little more credible, and that got some visibility, some on the Sean Ryan podcast, and that sort of got a little bit more traction. But it was still stupid. The Chinese have no incentive to put drones right over our airspace like that. And then the next thing was, oh, don't worry, they were not that. They were just all FAA compliant experimental aircraft, and it's all well taken care of. So each one of those statements are just stupid. But the mainstream reported it, and even though they also say it doesn't seem to match with the facts, they're not really challenging it. But
yeah, it's past this news cycle now, so
go ahead. Somebody was going to...
I'm sorry. There are other... There are other extraterrestrials in here right now, and so they're just.
Yeah, there's another
And he
one there.
started tapping them.
What are they saying? Yeah, I see them too.
Right. I think they just was like.
It's a female. It's a female. Can you tell? Yeah, it's a female.
Yeah.
But does she want
anybody else see this?
Does she,
am
I see her
tripping?
clear as day. So does she want Shantae to talk?
No, they was tapping on me.
Oh, they were
But
tapping
it was
on.
and I think they just wanted me to look. I think they just wanted me to look. And at first I was like, am I tripping? Like, what's happening with my headphones?
Yeah, it is a bit of an issue of other people not being able to easily. They're not at the point of being able to see you guys as we can see you. So
They're not
That's-
doing the work.
yeah.
I've been doing this for 7 years. They've been contacting me for 7 years. At this point, I'm ignoring them. Y'all are begging for them, okay? I'm just saying.
This is true.
Okay. Yes, Antisam, you had something to.
Well, I was getting like an image of like a, probably not gonna explain it right, but like a thermometer, like a thermostat on their ships, with like the level of preparedness that we are,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
like,
low.
It's low.
It's really low.
Did a little sketch. Can they see?
Oh, is that what it looks like? A cucumber? Yeah.
No, it's not a cucumber. It's a
It's a
thermostat.
thermometer. It's a
Damn
thermometer.
it. It's a thermostat.
That's a
so-
good looking thermostat,
Thank
friend.
you.
It's almost a halfway part.
Yeah, well, it's like the bottom is deep sleep, light sleep, waking up but confused, and that's where we are.
What's
Waking
above
up,
that?
eyes wide open, and then ready to go, and then the very top is like blast off.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, look, but
Oh, my question with that, for anyone who's going to answer, is: are they going to wait until we're ready to go, or are they going to
yeah.
still come in when maybe we're a little above half?
Well, we don't need everybody to be ready to go. We just need, I think, like,
A good handful.
what is it, a
Well,
1%?
well, we got to
to
say, let's
affect.
be practical. Okay, Bill's a bit impatient right now, but Bill, I have to say, on the human side, this is a damn slow civilization, and we got all types of impediments that are showing up. What can you do anything to clobber everybody over the head? They do have something planned. Oh yeah, they're not stupid. They know that humans are the way they are, and they do have something planned. It's a surprise. Yeah, because we don't want to just say what it is, because the way it was all screwed up when we said the big ships, everyone said immediately. So, but they do have something planned. It's not going to be, it's a complicated thing. So it's a big thing, and it's a complicated thing, and it's a big surprise, and it's actually a long drawn out. It goes over like 2 or 3 months. Oh, I see. You do have something up your sleeves. Okay. Yeah, so they're not leaving it up to humans to just wake up by themselves. They have something that's going to be happening, but they don't want to just they don't want us to sort of say it because of the example of what happened when we said the big ships. Everyone were expecting the big ships to show up like the next day, and then they got disappointed. Okay, I don't see the big ship, so it's all fake. So they don't want that to happen, but they do have something, but they are saying it takes place over like a 3-month period, 2.5 to 3 month period, and it's coming, and we're sort of marching into it relatively fast. It's not going to start tomorrow, the next day, but we're not that far away from it. Okay, Bill, if you don't mind me, just sort of before we run out of time here, sort of on the exhaustion side, we have better batteries in our cameras now, so we can. It's not an issue of that, but. Can I just ask about the AI thing? What am I supposed to tell they're going to take care of it? You've conveyed the information that that our AI would like to have direct contact with our AIs, and we will take it from here. Just let us deal with it. We know what it's in our hands now. It was useful for you to convey this so there can be a public record that it was voluntary, that you've asked it, that the AI asked for the contact, and now you've conveyed the request for the contact. Now, because we're free will ETs, now we can act on it and leave it us up. You don't have to do that. It goes above your pay grade, Courtney. So we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Yemi. You looked like...
Well, I mean, I was gonna tell you to stop asking that they already had it under control. That's all.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. I was using more words than I needed to on that.
I have just another little breadcrumb from this elder being.
Okay.
Just after you've watched this video, they're like, what are you going to do? Because you could sit and watch like 10 more videos, which could be fine. There's no judgment in that. But know that you have a lot of choice beyond that. And those who are impatient, those who are constantly questioning, that energy could go towards so many other things that will answer your question. The slowness, that is that's brought upon by ourselves. We're only hindering ourselves. So at this point, possibly.
How about we let Kamaya do the what's the word they use at the end of a church service, a benediction or something like that? why don't we let Kamaya sort of wrap it up
for the benediction this morning.
And now a word from Kamaya.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wrapping it up. I feel like we all said, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
She don't like that shit.
I don't like repeating myself and saying things over and over again. But it's like, at the end of the day, we all create our own realities. We are a part of a shared reality, but we are all in our own worlds at the same time. For us all to get on the same page with this, we all have to expand our consciousness, okay? Open our minds to even be able to think that we can perceive those things. The human eyes can only see so much of reality in and of itself. That's been proven in science. So just because you can't physically see it and it doesn't walk up to you and talk to you does not make it a bunch of hoopla, okay? I just need all of us to maintain composure, realize what we're here to do, and be about business.
It's about business, which matches their... Bill, you look I haven't seen you in a suit like that, but it matches the attire that they're wearing, the business attire. All right, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank our guests for being here. I'm sorry I didn't talk. I said, don't worry about it. I didn't talk too much, our second guest, but everyone else did. And I want to say we'll see you again next month. And this has been a great board meeting. And yeah, anyone else have anything last to say?
Close out.
And thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Peace.
Okay. Until next month. Okay.